Good morning, everybody. Really excited to try our first whole school creative writing lesson. First of all, if you were watching my assembly on Friday, I'm so sorry we got cut off. Our internet in school dropped out, it was broken right the way from Friday afternoon all the way through to Sunday morning. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that today is going to be absolutely fine. If it's not, or something goes wrong, what I'll do is I'll record the lesson and put it on the Google OneDrive so you can download it and complete your writing over the course of the week. So what is it that we're going to be doing this week? Well, this week I thought we'd have some fun and do some creative writing. So what we're going to do across the week is write a story. We're going to write an adventure fantasy story, but we're going to reveal and write our story as it goes across the week. So I'm not going to tell you everything about what happens in our story today, but instead we're going to reveal it and build it up over the week and give you an opportunity to write along. Now I'm going to tell you and guide you through a version of the story. Now you may decide on having a different main character, a slightly different setting, a different something that's going to go wrong later on in the week. And that's absolutely fine, because this is all about being creative and creating a really entertaining piece of writing. Now at the end of the week, what I'd like you to do is to either write out in best and take a picture of, or type and email in your entire completed stories, because we're going to have a bit of a story writing competition. Teachers are going to select the best entry from each year group, and we're going to share those and we're going to email them out across to everyone in the whole school so they can read what a fantastic story you've written. So I'll just say hello to some people because I've got 18 messages I can see. So I'll say good morning to, we've got 50 people watching, by the way, 50 different families. Hello, families. We've got Olivia, good morning. Jess and Jimbo, good morning. Captain America group, nice to see you all this morning. Olivia, Dilly, good morning. Connie, Alfie, hi. Esther, Charlie, Emily and Toby, Ella, Poppy, Hannah. Wonderful. Harry Potter, Key Worker Bubble is in as well. Wonderful. Lovely to see you all. Right, let me change the screen so you can see my PowerPoint and then we'll get going. Here we are then. So hopefully you'll be able to see my face as well as the PowerPoint next to me. If my face freezes like it did on Friday, I'm very sorry, because I know several of you ended up looking at me going for a good 15 minutes. But hopefully that won't happen today. So what we're doing then, we are going to create an effective character description. So we're going to start off our story by describing our character and their location and where they are. So we're thinking about who they are and where they are. And what we're going to do . First of all, we're going to create some atmosphere. Now, I want you to imagine it's a dark, dark night. I want you to imagine you are sat round this campfire. The night air is cool, the stars shine above you, and your only source of warmth is the fire in front of you. You're gathered round the fire to tell each other stories, because what we want to do is create our own legend that would be told around a campfire for many years to come. Just close your eyes for a second. Just imagine how it would feel to be surrounded by your friends, looking across the campfire, the darkness surrounding you. And I'm going to read to you the opening of our story that we're going to write together. Hear and listen well, my friends, and I will tell you a tale that has been told for 1,000 years and more. It may be an old story, yet as you will discover, it troubles and terrifies us now as much as ever it did our ancestors. For we still fear the evil that stalks out there in the darkness and beyond. We know that each of us in our time, in our own way, must confront our fears and grapple with this monster of the night who, given a chance, would invade our homes and even our hearts if he could. So roll back the years now, back to the 5th century after the birth of Christ, and come with me over the sea to the Norse lands we now know as Sweden and Norway and Denmark, to the ancient Viking lands of the Danes and the Geats and the Angles and the Jutes. This will be our here and now as this tale of courage and strength unfolds. Think about what kind of story you think we're going to write today. Look at the character on the left, a brave warrior, sword and shield and armour. Now, I'll be honest with you, boys and girls, I haven't written our story opening, I've borrowed it. I've borrowed it from a story called Beowulf. And this version of Beowulf is written by the author Michael Morpurgo. But the story is based on an ancient legend. And we're going to write our own legends across this week, to be told around the campfire in the darkness, to entertain each other. I'm going to read this opening to you again, because the language in the opening really sets a tone for the kind of story we're going to write. If you want to, you could magpie some of this language, or some of the phrases you might think you could use later on, perhaps when our story moves on to this creature of the night. So I'll read it again. Hear and listen well, my friends, and I will tell you a tale that has been told for 1,000 years and more. It may be an old story, yet as you will discover, it troubles and terrifies us now as much as ever it did our ancestors. For we still fear the evil that stalks out there in the darkness and beyond. We know that each of us in our time, in our own way, must confront our fears and grapple with this monster of the night who, given a chance, would invade our homes and even our hearts if he could. So roll back the years now, back to the 5th century after the birth of Christ, and come with me over the sea to the Norse lands we now know as Sweden and Norway and Denmark, to the ancient Viking lands of the Danes and the Geats and the Angles and the Jutes. This will be our here and now as this tale of courage and strength unfolds. So when we're writing today, and we're creating our character descriptions, we need to use powerful expanded noun phrases to describe the physical appearance of the character. We're going to use some verbs to bring the descriptions to life. So we're going to make those the physical aspects of that character do something or interact with the environment. We're going to use fronted adverbials to explain, oh, didn't mean to do that, let's go back. I can use fronted adverbials to explain where or how something happens. I can create atmosphere using careful word choice. I want to focus on that word atmosphere, because that's why we read that start of the story all together before. It creates an atmosphere of something quite dark, something quite sinister, something's going to happen in our story that's going to be both exciting and a little bit scary. So we want to make sure we're choosing our words and our sentence lengths really carefully to help create that atmosphere. And we're going to interweave the character and location to create a powerful story opening. Now I'm going to reveal to us now who the main character is in our story. And we're going to do some work around describing her first of all. Here she is. So have a look at that picture. Who do you think she is? Can we make any inferences based on the picture? So what do we know about her? And there are any kind of words that come to mind when you first see her? I tell you what, on your piece of paper in front of you, just write down, let's think of what do we know about her. Just jot down some ideas. It may be words or phrases, it might be some bullet points. And what kind of words come to mind when you look at her, when you are watching her? So take a moment and just consider those words and what we know about her. Oh, now it's interesting. I can see some people adding some of their ideas onto the screen. She is a Viking lady. Well, she looks like she could be a Viking. Maybe one of the Anglo-Saxons. Some of you may have learnt about. To me, I think she looks like a strong, powerful warrior. She's got her sword in her hand, and I think that's a sword that she knows how to use by the looks of it. She looks like she's practiced with it for hours and hours, under the careful tutoring of maybe her father or another warrior. She has a look of determination in her eyes. She knows what she wants, and she isn't afraid. But yet she has her long golden hair that falls gently down her back. Let's move on and let's think about some of these things together. So, looking at her, I thought there were a couple of things we could describe. Her sword, her eyes. Eyes are really important when we describe characters and what kind of eyes we say they have. It could be her body. It could be her hands, or perhaps her clothing. And I've put some adjectives just on the right hand side so we can start to build some expanded noun phrases. I thought of words such as powerful, strong, cat-like. Now I've chosen cat-like perhaps to describe her eyes, alert, wary, yet quite beautiful. Hard-wearing, simple, luscious. Her hair is quite luscious. Bright, gleaming, sharpened, decorative. Now you might think of other adjectives that describe each of these items, and you may decide actually I'd rather describe her hair than her hands, or I would rather describe a bit more detail about her face than talk about her powerful body perhaps. But what I'd like you to do is, at least for some of these items, is just start to build some expanded noun phrases. So we're going to add the nouns, so the items around her body, and also the adjectives that go with them. So it might be she's wearing a simple hard-wearing dress. It might be that her eyes are cat-like gleaming eyes. Her body may be strong and powerful. Her sword sharpened and decorative. So take a moment for the items we've labelled there, or perhaps some items you would choose to describe, and create just a bit of a brainstorm of those expanded noun phrases and add those onto your piece of paper. What we're going to do is we're going to use those expanded noun phrases to build a character description later on. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes now to use those character descriptions, to use those nouns to create a little bank of expanded noun phrases to help us later on. While you're doing that, I'm going to read down some of the comments. So we have fierce. I agree, Bella, she does look fierce. Warrior, brave, perhaps inspired by some TV programs. She perhaps is a rebel, soldier. Olivia and Henry are spotted. If you look closely, you can see blood by a hand on the sword. That's really interesting. She perhaps is a blacksmith. She does have quite a kind face, Lucas, I agree. She doesn't look like she's an evil character to me. So I think that's a really fair thing to comment on, because you can be kind yet powerful. You could use that conjunction yet to link those ideas. Oh, Ava's come up with a wonderful idea. She looks as if she's stealing an ancient sword. I like that word, ancient, from 1,000 years ago, that may be guarded by some of the oldest spirits of all time. Oh, what a fantastic story idea that is. She does look ready for battle. Evie and Ali have put the word underestimated. Now that's really interesting, because sometimes characters are underestimated. People may look at her and she feels she has to prove herself as a warrior. Perhaps she is a madwoman. We don't know yet, do we? But she's our character, so we can help describe her. Strong Poppy, great word there. Brave. So hopefully you're creating a bank of expanded noun phrases to describe her as a character. I'll just give you a little bit longer. If you want, you can go on to describe a little bit more about her. Lovely turn of phrase from Lily there. Her eyes are locked onto the thing she's looking at. Okay, so hopefully by now you've come up with some ideas. If you haven't, don't worry, you can come back to this and build them in afterwards. What we're going to do now is develop those ideas a little bit further. So still sticking to the same objects or parts of her we're going to describe. We're going to see if we can expand on those ideas a little bit further using either conjunctions to develop those ideas further, so perhaps whose, where or as, and perhaps some expanded noun phrases, some fronted adverbials across her shoulder, around her body, down her back. So we're going to expand on our ideas a little bit longer, a little bit further. So our character description may sound something like this. Her dress may be simple and hard-wearing, yet it covered a strong, powerful body. Focused and determined eyes glared straight ahead of her as she practiced with her sword. Bright golden hair fell down across her shoulders and down her back. A sharpened, gleaming sword was held in her hand, where it was waiting for the next battle. I think what we could do with is giving our main character a name. Now, when you're thinking of a name, think of a name that fits our story. Now, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use the name Indigo, because I think that's quite a mysterious name. So I'm going to say Indigo, and I can start to use my character's name in my description. Indigo's strong hands gripped onto the sword as if she was never going to let go. Her sword, who had been given to her by her father and had been owned by her father's father, caught the candlelight in the great hall. So what I'd like you to do is take a little bit of time to see if you can add to your expanded noun phrases using the conjunction whose, where, or as, or perhaps adding some expanded noun phrases to give a bit more context, some fronted adverbials to give a little bit more context about where, or perhaps how those items we're describing are. Got some fabulous ideas. I'll read out with share some ideas about her golden hair streamed down her back. Emily and Toby, I love the word streamed there. That's really good. She is kind yet fierce. Oh, she's got a sense of nostalgia in her eyes. Enzo, that's a fabulous word, nostalgia. Okay. So hopefully you've gathered a few ideas there that will help you with your writing. So far, if we think about our success criteria, we've created some expanded noun phrases. We've chosen some language that helps create an atmosphere and tells us about our character. We've started to use some conjunctions and fronted adverbials. What we're going to do now is have a look at where our character is. Now, I know this picture, she's inside a hall, but that's not where our story is going to start. Our story starts here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just put to one side our character description. We've thought and we've gathered our ideas there, and we're going to bring and gather some of our ideas around where she is at the start of the story. So the start of our story is here. Just have a look for a second. Absorb some of the information in that picture. Where is she? Whereabouts is she going to be at the start of the story? What could she see? Perhaps what would she hear around her? How would she feel? Now, this time with this location, what I've done is I've found some really powerful words and phrases that we can use and match together. And we're going to have some fun linking some of the items on the left-hand column with some of the phrases with verbs in on the right-hand column to build some really powerful language that describes the location she's in. For example, the first bullet point on the left, in fact, let's read down that left column. Majestic mountains, huge snow-capped mountains, a magical world of shimmering snow, spectacular views, paths of shimmering pillars and arches, cascading waterfalls, lush green meadows, green valleys, streams like silver ribbons. I like that one. Wooden chalets, picturesque mountain village, black, deadly mountains, or perhaps huge hostile mountains. They could be towering peaks, savage summits, bleak, perilous peaks, shark-finned ridges. I like that one. Snow-capped summit, like gigantic spearheads, like the humps of a gigantic dinosaur, like menacing black daggers. Enormous peaks like arrowheads. Hunched shoulders of the craggy mountain, black boulders of jagged rock, haunting maze of glinting ice and rock, inky black maze of steep rugged paths, shattered jagged boulders and unstable rock falls, steep rocky slopes, sheer drop, a veil of mist, a ghostly blanket of dark clouds. Now some of those nouns and adjectives match the picture and some don't, so we're going to have to pick the ones that we think match the best. Now, boys and girls, I've put this information on the Google Drive. So after that we've done this live lesson, you can go back and look at this list in a bit more detail to bring your descriptions to life when you're doing the independent writing activity afterwards. Now, to bring descriptions to life, what we do is we're going to make them do something. So we're going to add some verbs in. So let's have a look on the right hand side. We've got rose to meet the sky, surrounded by breathtaking summits, soared above her, towered above the village, framed by the mountain's majestic peaks, had a spectacular view, split, cracked and carved by the magic of nature. I love that one. Split, cracked and carved. The alliteration you've got there. Thundered towards the sky, pierced the sky, slashed the land, loomed ahead, burst out of the forest, rose like a black beacon, erupted in sharp points, huddled tightly together, crowded in on them, crushed them in its stony mouth. Walls glistened with damp, polished into dangerous slippy slopes, shattered by nature into jagged blades, blocked the path, shrouded in mist, enveloped in thick storm clouds. Hostile peaks jumped out of the mists. Oh, there's some wonderful language in here that really helps create that atmosphere. So let's start putting together some parts from the left and the right together. So we may say majestic mountains. So I do think the majestic mountains, and we pick something from the right hand side to complete the phrase. So we might say majestic mountains towered above the village. Spectacular views loomed ahead, and streams like silver ribbons burst out of the forest. Towering peaks were shattered by nature into jagged blades. That sounds a bit more dangerous, doesn't it? And let's choose another one. Shark-finned ridges were split, cracked and carved by the magic of nature. So you can see by borrowing some of the nouns and the adjectives, combining them with the verbs, we get a really powerful description that we can loop together using conjunctions and also some fronted adverbials. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us forward now to what the final outcome is going to look like. This list is on the is on the Google Drive for you to look at and bring some of those ideas together after we've done this lesson. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our character, we're going to put her into this location and we're going to weave the description together. I'm going to read you what my one sounds like. Indigo sat perched high above the glassy lake, feeling as if she was on top of the world. Across the horizon, birds flew and called to each other, while down on the rocks, down below the rocks, stood silently like soldiers outside the king's hall. Her golden quizzical eyes peered out across the jagged peaks and snow-capped mountains. Indigo's long tumbling hair fell down her back as the wind whipped and whistled around her, causing her to shiver. While she watched the cloud pass by in the azure sky, she held her long sword in her powerful hands, practicing the movements she'd been taught by her father. A simple gown of brown woolen material covered her body and muscular arms. She was strong, she was powerful, she was a warrior. So what I've tried to do there, especially with those last three short sentences, is to really give an indication of who she was. My key words: she's strong, she was powerful, She was a warrior. Now, as a reader, our imaginations can do the rest. We understand she's somewhere adventurous on the mountainside looking down across the lake. We know now that she's got quizzical eyes. We know about her hair. We know about her powerful body. Your task is to combine your character description work that we focused on earlier and weave it together with that location. You may choose perhaps a different character or your own location, should you wish to take your story in a slightly different direction. But I think as a really good starting point, we've got some great ideas there. So I'll just read that version again to you, so you understand what a really good one sounds like. Indigo sat perched up high above the glassy lake, feeling as if she was on top of the world. Across the horizon, birds flew and called to each other, while down below, the rocks stood silently like soldiers outside the king's hall. Her golden quizzical eyes peered out across the jagged peaks and snow-capped mountains. Indigo's long tumbling hair fell down her back as the wind whipped and whistled around her, causing her to shiver. While she watched the clouds pass in the azure sky, she held her long sword in her powerful hands, practicing the movements she'd been taught by her father. A simple gown on a brown woolen material covered her powerful body and muscular arms. She was strong. She was powerful. She was a warrior. So, what I'd like you to do then is have a go at creating your own story opening. I can see some absolutely fantastic ideas down here. I know on the stream they were quite small. That's why I've put them on the Google Drive for you to have a good look at afterwards and to combine them together. I've also put a picture of this screen on there as well. So when you're writing your own versions, you can look back at my one to see how I started my story. As always, boys and girls, if you want to magpie and borrow some of my ideas to help you with your story writing, of course you can. You borrow as much as you would like, but I really like to see some of your own ideas in there as well to match your own descriptions. Just looking back at the comments over here, boys and girls, I can see some fantastic language about, oh, like a fierce tiger, she was ready to pounce at any moment. That's a lovely one. A sea of grass. Olivia and Henry, life gathered on the edges of the mountain. Again, a lovely word there. Her eyes have a stream of tiger danger that could create you into an evil, could give you an evil stare. Ava, there's some lovely ideas there. We just could refine those. Bright gleaming hair. Fantastic. Right. So let's just go back and review our success criteria. So powerful expanded noun phrases to describe the physical appearance of the character. We've come up with some of those already this morning. Verbs to bring those descriptions to life. We're going to make them do something. Fronted adverbials to explain where or how. Creating atmosphere using careful word choice. And again, we talked about that being really important. And interweave the character and the location to create a powerful opening. So your task now is to go away and write your opening. You don't need to send in your opening today because we're going to build this story up over the week, and then you can send in your final lesson, your final story. Tomorrow's lesson is about describing a location. So what we're going to do is we're going to work together. Oh, my screen is moving on. To describe the location, about where she's going to on her journey. We're going to be using similes and personification as well tomorrow to enhance our writing. Okay, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're now going to go away and have some fantastic time to do some writing. Remember, the waggle is on the Google Drive, and so is the language you could help to describe the setting and the story. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow morning, 9:30. I will see you then. Goodbye, everybody.